Hi everyone, here's my pricing spreadsheets, and in this video I'll explain it and show you how you can download it. Now this uses a base up system rather than a top down some in the industry use, and for small projects this will be far more accurate. Let's see how the formulas work for things like quantifying the different elements, plasterboard sheets based on square metre, timber joists based on linear meters, for example, so you can fully exploit its potential. If you want to use this for your own projects, you're welcome. I'll show you how you can get it a little later in the video. All I would ask is, if you can, you leave a very small donation to help me with the channel using the superfan button. Thanks a lot if you can, and if that's too much, just hit me a like and I'll be happy. Now anyone, and I mean anyone, regardless of whether you've ever laid a brick or cable or not, anyone can prepare like a boss. How to control how much your home build project is going to cost before you start, and once you've started on site it gives you the control over coordinating and logistics. Perfect for a separate trades contract or for doing some of the trades yourself if you want to. Perfect for small scale property developers as well, looking to appraise and figure out cash flows at inception stage. I talked you through how I used it on a real world example in my earlier video here with this house extension, and there should be a link above to that. So let's show you how it works. Start by opening a Gmail account if you don't already have one, and then head to your new Google Drive. I'm using the Google Office Suite here because it is free to use, and don't worry about if you prefer Excel, we'll get to that in a minute. Here I can open a new spreadsheet with Google Sheets. Then using the link I'll provide you, you need to make a copy since my version is locked, and then you're up and running. Click on the file, and since you'll start with your building materials, look at the tabs along the bottom. I've listed everything I think I need for the example extension project I mentioned earlier, and I mean everything right down to the last screw, and I've separated them into each area of work, which represents each area of the trades you're likely to be using. You need one of these material lists for each trade, and then each phase of each trade, like joinery, first and second fix, electrics, first and second fix, and so on, to quantify accurately, so there's a separate spreadsheet for each of them. You can just use my lists as a starting point. They're a bit scrappy here and there as I added and subtracted things for this particular project, but I think a real world example is much more useful than a blank template, so add and subtract as appropriate for your project. If you want to add a material, just insert a line and then copy the material above it, paste it into the box and adjust it to what you need. So then I've got these formulas, and let's illustrate how they work by starting with a length of 4.8 metre 95 by 45 graded structural timber as our first example. Now for buying timber studs and joists, we order by linear metre, so I'll take my drawings and measure my total length of this particular timber type on my drawings, and if I don't have drawings I'll quickly sketch it out like this, and then I'll add a bit on for wastage, since with timber we'll always have some cut-offs which go into my chimney for an evening in the garden enjoying the sunset, as you can probably hear from the birds cheeping in the background and where I'm recording this at the moment. Now 15% is what I usually allow, but change this to work for you. The orange boxes are where you'll add the information specific to your project. Don't touch the white boxes. So here in the unit size box, we'll make sure to change the units to the appropriate measure to make it clear for when we make our material orders. And then we'll enter in this box or unit size, in this case, the 4.8 metre length. If your supplier's joists were only 3.6 metres, you'd enter that there. And here you'll see the program calculates the quantity required. If we look in the formula box, you'll see the roundup function, which automatically does the maths and makes sure your order is correct. You can't order a third of a length of timber, for example, so this function takes care of that. Now what about materials that we measure by area? Let's use a sheet of plasterboard as our example. A sheet is 2400 by 1200 millimeters, or 2.4 by 1.2 meters, which is 2.8 meters squared. We're using meters over millimeters since we measure our wall areas in square meters. I'll either use a 3D model to measure, and if I don't have that, I'll just sketch and measure each of the walls, no problem. And if you want to see how I do these 3D models, they're really easy using free software. I'll leave some links below and you can check that out. But sketching out like I'm doing here is absolutely fine. For stuff that comes in packs, you just put the number that comes in each box. Next, you'll need to add the price per unit in the other orange box. So for our plasterboard, I'll either check online or call my supplier. Now, I usually stay away from the DIY retail places, but quick tip, sometimes B&Q are actually quite competitive for plasterboard or drywall, if you're calling it that. And they'll deliver for free if you're over a certain quantity. The other thing you'll need to adjust is whether there is VAT to pay. This formula takes care of that along with the quantity and unit price to give the total cost. Now the likes of retail based outlets like B&Q, Screwfix, Toolstation, IKEA all quote with VAT inclusive, whereas timber merchants and wholesalers always quote net of VAT. So be sure to enter the Y or the N, depending on whether VAT is included or not, for prices that give you quotes either exclusive of VAT or inclusive of VAT, and the formula will automatically adjust the price for you. For self-builders doing an extension or attic, you'd want all these to show the cost including VAT, because you want to know the overall price. Whereas if you were building a house from scratch, and you'll be zero rate in your purchases, or you're a VAT registered business, putting it through the business, for both you'd want to see the total exclusive of VAT, because you'll be claiming back all of that VAT, and therefore you want to know what your net cost is. For each list, it's linked to the master sheet, which contains the summary sheet and which is what you'll use to see the overall price. This master sheet links the individual trades to the master by this formula, and each time you update the individual trade material sheets, the master sheet will automatically update, so the whole thing is coordinated. If you have some trades which I've not listed, for example, I've omitted my door schedule, I've omitted the shower room schedule, radiator schedule, tile schedule from this to keep it all on one screen, but you would just add a new sheet, copy the formulas and make a new section in the master sheet. You use the same formula to link the sheet to the master, and in the box where you want the total to be, press the equals sign, then navigate to the total amount on the new sheet and press enter. Now that's done, we need the labour, and unlike the materials we just talked about, which are based on what your local merchants are selling to you at, labour can fluctuate wildly, and it's based on several things. For example, your powers of negotiation, the detail of the information you're providing to your contractor, the location of the project, even the type of customer that you are. All these things can affect the labour price. I've included the rates I used for my team for the example of the house extension, but this would be a little more now given the recent bout of inflation which has affected wages. Here I've kept it simple. I've got a labourer, a skilled tradesman, and a price for a site manager or administrative person who is doing all the coordination and purchasing, which is a significant amount of time because it's essentially invisible to the people who are not used to building this themselves, is often not taken account of when novices are considering costing of projects. I'll usually allow 25% of the labour amount, but choose what you think suits you, or just leave it out if you're doing it all yourself as a self-builder. However, even if you are expecting to do most of this labour yourself, you'll be much better equipped if you've gone through the process on this template of simulating what the costs would be based on actual labour rates to give you an idea of what's actually involved, what you're saving, and if you have some sort of change of heart during halfway through the job, you will know how much it's going to cost you if you get labour involved. As I said, preparation is everything and knowledge is always power in construction. Now for any labour that I've got fixed prices for example brickwork, I've got a fixed price for in this and therefore it's not going to fluctuate. I'll stick that in the materials column of the brickwork schedule. With your rates established, you then need to estimate the time to do each task. I use this forward programming template similar to a Gantt chart. It's very visual, shows the way each trade links to the next in the process and where and when the responsibilities tend to overlap for each trade. I'll link my time estimates back to this spreadsheet so that if I update the program, my labour prices will update automatically. I'm sure I'll get round to sharing my templates of this system for you. If you're interested, just leave a comment down below. Now, in my other video about what the cost for this extension example was, I did have a few strange comments, like this person laughing off the price the client paid. I think he thought it was way too expensive, and it's good to get this type of feedback so I can explain things maybe I forget at the time, so you get a more full picture. Your opinion on the final price of any build when you have a document prepared in this way, it's kind of irrelevant, since if you think the price is too expensive, or cheap for that matter, then you can explain and adjust using this system really objectively as to what you would do if you were in control. So what you think is the correct day rate for the labour and what the correct time for each task could be. Those two options really are all that can change as materials are fixed because of how we measured them, as we saw earlier. And if you are pricing all trades, building work yourself, maybe you're a small contractor or a sole trader, what are you doing different? Are you, for example, using a quantity surveyor for your quotes or metre square pricing? Yeah, I'd be interested to know in the comments. Now back to my pricing system, and we need our total amount. We get that by adding the material links and the labour links together, trade by trade, in chronological order of how the job would progress on site. Now, for a limited time, I'll leave the link to the download in the description, and if it's not there, here's a link to the website where I'm planning to upload a load of articles and information to reinforce these videos, where I hope to be putting a load more downloads like this for you to use. I've used Google Sheets rather than Excel, as Google Sheets is free for everyone. If you prefer to work in Excel or numbers with Apple, just save it to your hard drive in the correct format using the export function and you're good to go. As I said at the start, a tiny donation using the thanks button would be great if you're able. Hitting the like button will also help, and once you've downloaded it, in order to edit it, you'll just need to make your own copy, as my one is locked. You then just edit this in your browser. I'll make another video showing how I filter bits I want to remain private before using printing options to make good looking PDF printouts for my customers for quotes, or for my bank if I'm purchasing and developing myself with loans and mortgages for a property development project, and how I use material lists to email to the merchants to get accurate prices for materials in bulk prior to populating the prices. Remember, the prices are probably outdated and not exhaustive for your project, and always consider professional advice for all your building projects if you're not sure. That's all I've got this time. Thanks a lot for watching to the end. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you soon.